Hey guys, welcome to this new video on my channel. My name is Nico, aka Nico, and today we're gonna talk about the Fuji X100F and why this camera is still great in 2022. Let's roll the B-roll and then let's get started. So if you don't know the Fujifilm X100F, this is a camera made around 5 years ago and is a part of the X100 series made by Fuji. And it's a compact camera with a fixed focal length of 23mm on a crop sensor, so it comes around 35mm, and an aperture of 2.0, which is perfect in low light. And yeah, there's obviously a newer version of this, the X100V, which is more expensive and has only a few little bit other features. So yeah, we're gonna talk about in this video why you should still get the older version in 2022. The reason number one I love this camera, it's a compact camera, so I can bring it everywhere with me, in my jacket, in my backpack, or just around my neck, and I don't have to think about any lenses still, since it's a fixed focal length. And it's really beautiful to taking this camera, for example, on the way to work or with family or friends, because I can always snap some high quality images and don't have to think about any other gear or about having too much equipment on me. And this is really great. I love this camera because my big Canon R6 is very heavy. It has perfect build quality and image quality, but on a normal everyday use I would still prefer this small camera because it's has the perfect size and I love it. The second thing I love about this camera is that it has been around for around 5 years, which means that a lot of people are selling this camera used on the internet, and that's how I also got mine for around 700 euros with a nice quality. And this is also a big advantage to the newer version, because the newer version, there's not so much market for this in the used space. So if you want to grab a very good camera for a cheaper price than the original price, I can really recommend the X100F. The next thing I love about this camera is the ease of use. First of all, you don't have any other equipment you need to carry because it's one lens, it's already fixed, so you don't need to think about this. And when you get, when you understand the basic of photography, this camera works perfectly. The autofocus, it's fine. It's not the fastest autofocus, but it's very good, and you get beautiful images without thinking too much in this camera. And what I love most are the film simulations on the Fuji. You can simulate different film looks and also export those JPEGs to your phone with this look on it, and don't think about editing any of the photos because you already have this kind of film look on the photos. And if you still decide you want to edit, you can always photograph in JPEGs and RAWs. So for example, I usually import the JPEGs to my phone and can post them right away, or I go to my SD card and import the raw photos to my computer, and I can still edit them in Lightroom, which is very cool because I'm always flexible. If I decide I want to do a little bit more with a picture, I can do it. And if I just want to share it immediately with my friends, I always take the JPEGs with this film look on and have a beautiful picture. So the next thing I love about this camera are the buttons and dials. You can dial in every setting you want through the dials and buttons, and this is very cool because you don't have to look at the screen. You can just go to the back on the camera and change the aperture or the shutter speed on top or the ISO, and this makes this camera feel very nostalgic and kind of like a film camera. I know obviously there are digital cameras like the Canon R6 where you obviously have the dials, but these dials, for example, have also the shutter speed on it, so I can usually just look on the dial and change the setting without having to use the screen at all, which makes it very cool, and I like this experience. Plus the viewfinder is can be also switched to analog or electric, so it's very cool to have the option to photograph more digital or more analog. And I like just the style of this camera in general, and a lot of people always ask me if this is a film camera because they think it looks a little bit older, and that obviously says something about the camera when people see this as a film camera. Now I also have some things or two things to say what I don't like that much about this camera. but these are all very subjective, so feel free to comment down below if you feel the same or if you feel completely different about the negative aspects. So number one are obviously the video capabilities. This camera is a little bit older, so at 5 years ago video was not a so much necessary topic in cameras. There are special cameras for this, and nowadays everybody produces some kind of videos, and all cameras usually need to have good capabilities. So with this camera you don't get image stabilization and not the other video stuff. You can obviously record some video, but it's not as good as with other cameras. I would always keep this in mind when you're thinking about getting this camera, because for vlogging I wouldn't use this camera, but for photography this is the perfect camera, I would say. And number two, also very subjective, I had a little bit of troubles editing the Fuji RAW files because it has a different color space than my Canon stuff, because I use a Canon usually. So for me it was a little bit hard to get used to this footage. But this is obviously very subjective since everybody uses different systems, and if you're already using Fuji you won't have any problems, and if you're using a different camera you might also not have any problems. This has something to do with me and also maybe my editing process, but I would just keep in mind this has a different look in the raw pictures than maybe your standard camera you are using. So yeah, now let's conclude this video. Would I still buy this camera in 2022? Obviously I would say yes. I think this camera would be still great in 5 years. Obviously without the video capabilities. For photos this camera is a beast, and it's not the sharpest camera on the market, but obviously you don't need to spend as much of money as for other cameras, and that's why I would always choose this one over some other camera, because it's cheaper, you can get it more on the market, and has still very good capabilities like the film look, the buttons, and the build quality is amazing, and that's why I love this camera, and it's gonna stick around with me for a little bit longer. So yeah, let's comment down below if you have used a compact camera like this before, and leave a like and comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.